Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Rick and Morty, which we'll be getting into today. I'm Dylan Hysen, and welcome to our panel for the ABCs of Beth, the latest episode of Rick and Morty, episode 9 of season 3. We're doing 2 podcasts a week here on Rick and Morty season 3. It's been very exciting, and we've arrived at the penultimate episode of the season, the ABCs of Beth. So here we will ask our panelists, who you'll meet in just a minute, questions about the episode. And we will grade their responses based on originality, correctness, and something third other factor.
How much Dylan likes us today.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a fourth one. But yeah, so we'll see who's champion at the end of the panel. Check out our recap podcast for the ABCs of Beth if you have not yet. That's all at overlyanimated.com. Search for Rick and Morty Overly Animated. You can find our Rick and Morty specific iTunes feed. Subscribe to that to not miss any of our podcasts. And if you're listening on YouTube, you can subscribe to us there. So let's introduce our panelists, but not an actual introduction because I want to get right into the first question here, which is your grade for this episode, the ABCs of Beth. So on an A to F scale, according to whatever your arbitrary rating system is. So say hi and then tell us what your grade for this episode is. First up is our defending champion, Alex Bonilla.
Hola, everybody. So my grade, I struggled a lot with this one just because, like, when I first watched it at the end, I was just like, wait, was that a good episode or a bad episode? Like, I honestly couldn't tell at first. On the second rewatch, I think I enjoyed it more because I knew where it was going and I was prepared for all the things it was throwing at me. So I think in the end, I end up at a B-. Like, it's very visually interesting. The B plot is it's sometimes funny, sometimes not. The Beth thing is sometimes disgusting, sometimes palatable enough. I was just back and forth through the entire episode, so B- is where I settled with that.
Okay, B-. Those are always the best episodes when you're like, was this good after I finished it? I have that a lot, yeah. Next up is April Collins.
Hi. So I gave this episode a C+. I also had to rewatch it because after the first time I was like, what did I just watch? But then on the second, and I kind of watched it a little bit of a third time, I was like, nope, I didn't really enjoy this episode as much as I thought I had initially. I didn't like Beth's characterization. I hated Tommy, and I thought the...
What? Come on.
I did not like Tommy at all.
Okay, to quickly defend those two claims, what's the one sentence reason why you didn't like Beth's characterization?
I thought it was weak, and we've already been given that. Yeah. So,
co-signing that second part.
Yeah, I thought the B plot was mildly interesting, but like, you know, visually it was all right, and there were some really good one-liners, which is where I fall with the C+.
Okay. We got B-, C+. Next up is John McKenna.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to give this one a B because I actually really liked this episode. It was great to see Rick and Beth get fleshed out a little bit more, and I really applaud, and I really have to give this episode credit for devising an episode in which neither the A plot nor the B plot had Rick as a dominant character in it, which is probably really tough to do, but it allowed the other characters to shine. There were some instances where it could have been a little bit stronger. I felt like maybe maybe they both could have been good A plots, and maybe could have been good A plots as independent episodes. And there were some other issues I had with some, which we'll probably get to later. But all in all, I actually did like this episode. It just, it's getting to that point where it's almost like a relative scale. So I just didn't like it as much as some of the others. So that's why I gave it a B.
Okay. Yeah, and relative scales are, of course, fine here. All Rick and Morty episodes compared to other TV episodes might be much higher than we're giving them, but compared to other Rick and Morty episodes. Last up, we have Brit Griffin.
Hi. I'm going to give the episode a solid B. I subtracted a letter grade because I really didn't like the B plot with Jerry. I just, even if, like, it had some really good one-liners, but this episode was everything I hate about Jerry. But I really liked the Beth plot. Like, I really, really liked the Beth plot. I actually watched this episode, I think, 5 times, trying to dissect,
Whoa.
like, both plots. And it took me, like, 3 times to finally, like, figure out what they were going for with the Jerry plot. But, like, the Beth plot, I was like, oh my god, best characterization.
Yeah.
If you watch Simply Illogical, that was my impression on YouTube. So, but yeah, I really liked this. I finally got Beth and Rick interactions, and we finally have, like, Beth accepting herself and, like, having agency. So I was really excited about that. I can see those female writers that everybody on Reddit hates and Facebook finally getting their shit together on this show.
Yeah.
So, well excited.
Okay. So we got B's, B minus, C plus. I like the diversity of opinion here. I was very high on this on the Recap podcast. I'm not going to say my opinion every time, but this is like an A minus or an A for me. Like, I'm in love with this episode. So interested to see what misgivings you guys have as we get into it in depth here. I'll give April and Brit 5s and John and Alex 4s. I think those are all good answers. I just think, Brit gets a 5 because she watched it 5 times. That's an instant full points. And then I thought April explains her hesitations better. So, but those were all good answers to start with here. Please brag if you've seen the episode multiple times, because I always brag about watching it 3 times on the recap. But yeah,
you already know I watch everything at least twice. Yeah. So
no, just say it. Just say it. It gives you credibility. Okay, let's move on.
I've seen it 4 times.
Okay.
Can't decide.
Just kidding. I saw it 8 times.
Yeah, okay. But you're risky territory there, because if you're lying, that's points off. Okay, so let's get into our second question here. Who is the MVP of the episode? Which character? Could be a minor character, could be a main character. Hopefully it won't be Morty for Alex. Who's the MVP of this episode? Britt, start us off here.
I'm going to pick Beth.
Beth, okay.
This episode made me realize that without Beth, this whole show would not be, because she is the connecting factor between Morty and Rick, Jerry and everybody else, Summer. Like, she is almost like the catalyst for the whole show. Right? If it was not for Beth letting Rick live with them, Morty and him would never get to, go on adventures. Without her, Rick would not come back to the family. There would be no Rick and Morty. So, and she got her agency this season. She was the most interesting character. She had the greatest amount of development, in my opinion. She was the most interesting part. Like, mainly the reason that I watched it so many times was trying to, like, figure out Beth, like, in this episode. Like, what was she doing? Like, what was her character's, like, motivations? And if, spoilers, but whether or not she left or not. Or do we have Clone Beth at the end? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, we're fully into spoilers here, but yeah, we'll address the clone Beth question. Yeah, so there's Brit's on the board with Beth as the MVP, titular character of the episode. So got to be a strong choice. John, who's your MVP?
I'm gonna go with Tommy.
Tommy.
Yeah, I'm giving it to Tommy. Well, first off, I have to give credit to Thomas Middleditch. When I was watching the episode on the couple reruns, I'm imagining him just in just a soundproof room, flailing his arms around and just give that full expression in his voice. So that's one reason. You could tell he was so into that role when he was doing it. But also that Tommy was an absolute total freak. But it's to be expected when you're the only human in an imaginary land, and to sustain yourself, you had to have sex with the indigenous population and then eat the babies. But it was sort of, I don't want to say I understand where he was coming from, but
the fact that he was a freak is kind of like understandable.
Clearly, it's understandable.
But it was hilarious because he's technically an adult, but he still thought like he was a 9-year-old, and he still he couldn't say the word bitch. He said B word. He was acting like he was still big and important. He had no sense of maturity whatsoever, and it made him so believable. And his interactions with Beth were great, especially toward the end where she's killing all of his friends, and possibly him. So yeah, that's why I have to give Tommy the credit here.
Okay, I love this. We should know I love Tommy at this point from the recap podcast. So this is a good choice for MVP. I assume April will not be choosing Tommy, but who are you choosing, April?
I chose Summer. I thought she was the most realistic person in the entire episode. She was hella snarky. Not only did she put her mom in her place, but she put Jerry in his place and actually got him to like man up. And I was all about that. So, and she had some really good like one-liners in this episode. So Summer's my MVP.
Okay. 3 different answers here. Alex, Morty has not been selected. Is that where you're going?
I
We
wish.
all left
but
it open for you.
Yeah. We gave it to you.
Yes, but Summer won that side of the plot, but I can't I can't give it to Morty. But I liked Rick in this episode. Actually, I feel like he was a lot more laid back than in usual episodes, and it kind of worked as Beth being the one that's a bit more hyper in that plot. He handles Beth's anger at him like very well, and he like explains himself very clearly, and his dialogue at the end, well, maybe you don't matter to me, but maybe I love you, maybe it's your mother, and like just him being like very calm and expressing his emotions, but also in the beginning, like he's a very good source of humor. Like, oh, am I a monster because I made this perfect world for you? And also like him getting betrayed by his own land when he gets taken by all these angry animals and all the screaming. I think all in all, he was very solid in this episode, and I actually enjoyed him more than Morty, which is very rare in episodes.
Okay, yeah, one of the least Rick-heavy episodes of the of the season, but it's an interesting choice here. 4 different answers. Good job, people. I'll give April and Alex the 5s and John and Brit 4s, but those are all good answers. So. Some strong, no major points off here yet. You guys are going strong, but let's see how it's ruined with this next funniest line question. I think that there may be the most choices for what's the funniest line of the episode for any episode this season, which is one of my arguments for this being a really strong episode. Super quotable. So I'm expecting good stuff here. April, start us off.
Oh, thank goodness. My favorite line was, "Bitch, my generation gets dramatized for breakfast." I loved it so much. I just loved it so much. And she just like doesn't even miss the beat when she delivers it. Like, best. I laughed. Like, I had to stop and just have a moment to myself. So
had to have a moment. Okay, yeah, I like it. Yeah, that's a good one. One of many This is a big reason why
there were so many.
Yeah,
like
especially
quotes.
By Summer. Yeah, this is like the main argument why Summer might be the MVP. Like I think overall it's probably Beth because it's her episode, but Summer's a strong choice. She's I'm sure someone else will quote a Summer line here too. So, John, you're up next here.
I'm gonna go back to the play that they saw. I'm starving. All I can do is hump. I hump this rock. I hump this tree. I hump this beast of burden.
It's beast of the land. So
beast of the land.
To insert my seed.
Yeah, it was.
Feast on my flesh so that you may survive.
Well, I wasn't going to do the whole line, but yeah, you got the point. It's what the. Again, and this is just my sense here because I love how just totally fucked up that whole real plot was. But it was again, first off, it's just the voices. They're little kids' voices talking about humping inanimate objects, and the fact it just got darker and darker and darker while still keeping that tone. I just couldn't stop laughing. It started off as this fairly innocent play, which just sounded something like a 9-year-old would write, but then it just got so perverted and shocking that even if you knew it was coming, but it was just awful that just awful and hilarious at the same time.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's why I had to go with it.
Okay, nice choice there. I will grade your guys' impressions. Brit 1, John 2, Alex 3. Alex, not as good as your Scourge McDuck impression. I'm sorry.
Darn.
Yeah, but, okay.
Hey, but I still won.
Okay.
Oh,
No, in order. No, Brit best. Yeah. That's confusing with our grading scale. Yeah. Okay.
Double.
Yeah. Maybe I need to start ranking your.
No one said you get points.
Yeah, these are not. Come on, you guys don't. Okay. Anyway, so there's your two. Brit, what's your choice for funniest line of the episode?
Wait, what are my values? Like that one kid who they're just like making fun of him. He's like, you delete school. Wait, what are my values? And it was so damn funny.
From the bully.
And it surprised me because I thought like that intro with Summer was gonna take it, but nope, that was what I thought the funniest line was random bully kid.
Okay.
I giggled.
Yeah, that was a good one. Subverting the bully guy there. Yeah. Alex, what's your funniest line of the episode?
Okay, so this isn't the objectively funniest line, but due to the time context, like I'm a big NFL fan, so I was on top of the whole kneeling Colin Kaepernick situation. So when they're kneeling to King Tommy and Rick is like, I'm not kneeling, suck my dick. It's just the juxtaposition of having watched Sunday Night Football and then seeing this like, oh, whoa. But that got the biggest chuckle out of me in the first watch.
And no one makes him kneel. They're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, no one enforces it.
Yeah, that's
just the forceful delivery of the line.
It is very time relevant based on current events. That's a tough one to grade, Alex, because clearly that line is not.
Yeah, I can give you a second, but
give me a second.
In the middle of the speech where Rick is explaining, "Oh, you're a terrible kid," he says something like, "I didn't want to clone every naive kid or animal who crossed your sociopath."
Yeah, I do like sociopath. Yeah,
and the funny part is he like glides right through it, but I think there was just enough time for the joke to land for me before he kept going.
Yeah, I like sociopath. I think you guys are leaving out a lot of great lines, as usual.
There's a lot of really good lines.
Yes.
Also, Summer...
I wrote like 6 of them down.
Yeah, one of Summer's lines that I was considering, does your planet have shorter days? Because you guys are moving kind of fast.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. I'm going to give April 4, which is the highest grade of the segment. John and Britt get 3s, Alex gets a 2 for that. They're all fine, but... I went through.
What's Dylan's favorite line?
Look, I have like 10 of them. I can't go through them. I went through them on the recap podcast, but
Did any of us pick your favorite line?
No, come on.
We never do.
Yeah, it's
we don't.
Yeah, I mean we
don't listen to the recap.
Look, all you just got to do. I mean, I think the Reddit line is a clear choice for this one too.
Oh yeah, that one was really good too.
Yeah, that's just such a.
My thing is that line was too long. Like the joke was funny enough, but I feel like there were quicker zingers in this episode. So there was so much to choose from that line ends up falling to the wayside.
I think that it's like it stands on its own. It's easy to quote for. I mean, it is long, but yeah. So
yeah, it's not easy to quote.
There's a lot of really funny stuff here. Anyway, some choices here. We'll see if we give other stuff in the gag category. That's always a hang up. So, but before we get to that, let's answer the biggest question after this episode. At the end, what's Beth's decision? Is this clone Beth we see at the end, or is this real Beth? And why? And also, if you want to answer the question, does it even matter? You can answer that too. But let's start here with John.
I'm going to go ahead and say clone Beth. And here's why. When she was presented with that option from her father, she went and saw the 4 photos on the fridge. Putting aside the Mr. Poopy Butthole and Rick photo. This is what I think she was thinking when she saw each photo. She looked at the photo of her pregnant with Jerry, and she realized that she was starting a family with Jerry, so her life was going to be about the kid at the time, and him. But then she looked at Summer, and then she looked at Morty, and she's realized that they have become, pretty strong, pretty capable in their own right, but especially in their case, they're kind of starting to absorb a bit of what Rick is. And a little bit. Well, Morty's getting a little bit more sort of jaded. Summer is completely jaded. And you have Rick who's totally, he feels he's above it, and in a sense he is. And at the same time, Beth is now realizing that, oh my God, I'm my father's daughter. And if I stay with it, and if I stay like this, I could be turning my kids into me because I was turned into my father. And she's probably thinking she does not really want to do that because she doesn't feel like that's good for them. And the best way to avoid that is to let a clone take care of it, who's going to be a little bit more mellow, that doesn't have that might not be as susceptible to her Rick-based tendencies. And probably the best thing for her kids is to let a clone Beth take care of her while she goes away and does something else.
Yeah. It's good logic there. I think that's following the train of thought of the episode pretty well. I'd like more analysis on how Mr. Poopy Butthole fits into all this, given the.
She's there to make everybody happy. Also, she did shoot him, so maybe she's a little bit worried about that as well.
Yeah, that's got to be the number one reason she leaves. Okay, Britt, what's your take on this? Clone Beth, the real Beth?
I think it's clone Beth. For me, the big giveaway was when she walked into the kitchen after having all this happen to her. She's really, really happy and upbeat, but it's not. It's almost like it feels fake to me or forced. Or it would feel forced, but it doesn't. Whereas if Beth was real Beth, having had a really huge day, would feel a little less like upbeat and happy about just getting pizza and how was Jerry. You know what I mean? And when she's looking at the fridge, to me, she's saying goodbye. Like these things are things that she cares about, but she's saying goodbye because she's got to figure out her own shit. Which is basically what happened in the B plot with Jerry. After watching it a bunch of times, I finally figured that out. That they're both starting to own their own, like, darkness. And Beth has to, like, figure out her shit. Like, she's finally realized that she's, in fact, Rick.
Yeah.
Right? So I think she's going to try and, like, push that to the max. And then sometime, probably next season, she's gonna come back and it's gonna be like super badass mom. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty exciting if she does come back. Yeah, I agree.
I think she'll come back eventually. I feel like they wouldn't make a clone of her and then have nothing come of it. You know what I mean? If she's leaving, some shit's gonna go down and then she'll come back.
Definitely for a normal show, they would definitely do something with it. For this show, they've left things alone before, but they tend to try to bring things back around eventually. I think
this is important enough that they'll bring it back around.
Yeah. Okay. So
Beth is kind of a main character.
Yeah, it is true. So this is 2 votes for Clone Beth. Alex, your take.
Make it 3. As far as the show has told me, it seems to be Clone Beth. The way Rick describes it is like a perfect copy of you. It'll love and provide for the kids and do your job. So, but he declines to mention anything about emotions. And when you see that final scene, you have like her being very chipper with, "How is Jerry's?" And like I just feel like she wouldn't. Like in her current state, she wouldn't have that, especially considering all her history with Jerry. But if you make a clone where it's just like a clean version of her, then sure, that's believable. And also the fact that like Rick feels comfortable saying I love you back to this version of Beth, even though he wasn't comfortable doing it with what we know is the real Beth. Like that also tells me something, because we know Rick has often had problems with emotional attachment. So maybe in his mind, he believes, I'm saying it to a clone, so it doesn't matter as much. So that solaces him in being able to respond. So just all in all, it feels like a clone, and that the real Beth is wandering off to find herself.
Okay. 3 votes, Clone Beth. April, your take.
So make that 4 votes, but I'm not going to be nice about this. I think that real Beth is selfish. She's obviously a psychopath, and she refuses to take responsibility for the mess that she's created in her life. And so Rick offering her that out, I can easily see her taking it and leaving, because she doesn't want to deal with it. She would rather push her problems and everything that's going on in her life onto other people. She did it with, her relationship with Jerry. She does it with, Summer and Morty. And she even does it with her own father, who she's quote unquote idolizes. And she's an exact copy of. So I have no reason to believe that it's real Beth at the end. And even in like just the the demeanor and how she's nice to her kids. She even asks about Jerry. Like, the real Beth doesn't care about Jerry. She doesn't care about anyone but herself. She doesn't care about her kids. So why wouldn't she just pick up and leave? She's constantly talked about it. So here she goes. So, and I can't imagine that it's real Beth at the end. And I think that's just the extent of her selfishness. I mean, Rick did it supposedly. Maybe he had other reasons as to why he left his family, but it's like father, like daughter. So she's just going to follow into her father's footsteps because she already knows who she is. She is Rick's daughter. That's the role that she's accepted. And if Rick did it, it's her time to do it too. So bye.
I mean, but she does care. I think she does care about her kids, though. I mean, she does make an effort to relate to them and be a mother to them in a way that's not as transactionary as Rick does.
She became a giant, angry flesh monster.
Yeah,
but only after getting harassed by
I think
Morty
she
that
does
entire
it,
episode.
And I think that the only reason why, she puts on that face is because she's supposed to. Because she is supposed to be the mom. And she is supposed to be, better than Rick was to her. So I think that's the only reason why she, to almost a certain extent, pretends to care about her kids. But, I mean, maybe she does, care about them on the same level that Rick cares about Morty, or Rick cares about Summer, and Rick cares about Beth. But I don't think that it's she deeply cares for them.
Okay, so
and also I just want to say, this episode, I really did feel like it was going for a theme of people trying to convince themselves they're not shitty, even though they are. But with Jerry, you have the problem of that he is just incapable of self-reflection. So even if he can even say out of his mouth, "Yes, I'm upset, sis, I'm shitty," but that doesn't change him at all because he just doesn't. He's incapable of that. And she realizes that Rick he's come to terms with this, but as we've seen in previous seasons, for a long time he was unwilling to really admit that. So I guess this is basically her saying, well, I know I'm shitty, but I need time to fix this, and I'm not going to do it around Rick. So I have to go off on my own to at least come to terms with it, if not figure out how to become a better person, but on my own.
Okay, I like that thematic analysis. Gonna get a bonus point for that. So definitely bring up tie-in themes. So April, that is a very strong, distinctive, and clear take. I very much as an answer, as an objective answer on the panel, I very much like that it gets 6 points. It was a great answer. John 5, Brit 4. But I very much disagree with that answer from April. I think it's way harsh on Beth for in a show full of people who are shitty, specifically Rick, who really have no reason to be. Beth is someone who's had really hard circumstances put upon her that are mostly out of her control. And yeah, she's not a pinnacle of, of great stuff, but, she had Rick as a father who's this terrible person who, did, as we learned in this episode, did all these terrible parenting techniques with her, giving her all these devices, which is just clearly terrible. She got pregnant as a teenager and was kind of forced into this heteronormative lifestyle that she really did not want. I think that, a lot of the reasons that Beth is...
She had to be married to Jerry.
She
didn't have to. She could have chosen not to.
I think
she was married to Jerry. She didn't have to marry to Jerry, but she chose to be married to Jerry. And if you're making that choice, that you probably don't.
I think that
she's 17.
Better at age 17.
Her mom isn't around. What was she gonna do?
First of all, Jerry's probably better, but it's still Jerry. But I don't really like blaming the woman for those circumstances. They're enormous societal pressures in those situations, and just saying it's Beth's fault. She's a terrible person. Also, the take that she doesn't love her children, I think has been shown clearly not true by the show. I don't think that she's naturally motherly affectionate tendencies. I also don't think that's her fault. I think that she's there for her kids and has been the entire time. So I really disagree with the take, although it was a good take. So
I think the idea that she be given an out is an interesting concept. I think if they're gonna go that route with making Beth
but it's an out.
Except that she thinks that she's evil or like a sociopath or just like Rick. It's like literally just Rick. She is her father. Then that's what they would do.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, she's getting an out, but at the same time, she's kind of realizing that if I don't take this out, my kids could turn out worse. Mm-hmm. And she is still thinking about her kids. It's like, she cares about them enough to think, if I stay with them and I continue to act like my father, this could get bad really fast. This could get even worse for my family. I need to step away so that they don't become me.
Yeah, I think there's an element of it to this. Let me also, related to this, present the it's not clone Beth take, because it's related. I think this is a distinct possibility. This is just Beth. I think I'm of the opinion that Beth loves her children and can be warm and affectionate. And the point is that she would have actively had to opt in for the first time to her lifestyle, or to her life circumstances here. And I think choosing to do so would make her happier, would give her some semblance of control over her life. And I think it's a clear possibility that this is actual Beth at the end, much like I think Beth, is a good person overall, I guess.
Choosing this life. That's interesting. That she would be.
I could see that, but from what they've led us to believe up until that point, you're really gonna have to address that it's actually Beth there. You know what I mean? And in a show that's notorious for not setting things up and then not addressing them, maybe we'll get the answer to whether or not it's real Beth. And I can see it being real Beth if she chooses to, accept that responsibility. But up until this point, I just don't see that.
The show definitely have to explain it, because it kind of leads you, as all of you stated, the episode leads you to believe it's clone Beth. I think that's good. And also just the annoyance at Beth, it just...
do you think the clone will go Blade Runner? Because
they say, it said no chance it goes Blade Runner.
He was real confident.
He said
no chance it goes Blade Runner, yeah.
Rick, are you really that confident we're not going to have our bloods?
Yeah.
Blade Runner situation. It's going to be Beth versus clone Beth, and
Rick made a
sort of Star Wars
Rick made
parody.
Rick made a Morty that was almost totally, completely, 100% independently sentient. So I don't know how he can make that guarantee.
Yeah, I don't think he can. But anyway, last thought on this. I think the thing that really I'm fine with the take Beth isn't a great person, but it annoys me to be mad at Beth and just show zero scorn to Rick, who, as I mentioned in my answer, Rick has no excuse for being the shitty, terrible person he is, and we're led to be sympathetic to him because he's portrayed that way in the show. But be pissed at Rick. Don't be.
We though?
He's the perspective character in that regard. I agree. People overdo it, obviously, as fans.
Yeah, because I think the show has done a good job of letting us know that Rick is shitty and has as
we're
much.
We're still
influence
meant
on
to
Beth.
sympathize with him when it's questionable whether that should be true at all. But regardless, director scoring at Rick. This is Rick's fault. Rick in this episode presents, the reason that the universe hates us is because we're smart. Fuck you, Rick. That's a terrible take.
Oh no, I think that's terrible too. I'm not saying, but the question wasn't about Rick. Okay. It was about Beth.
Fair.
So,
also a thing I want to bring up here, just to tie in with another show we cover, BoJack Horseman. That did a whole episode talking about the relationship between how much influence your parents have on how you grow up, but also the decisions that you make. And it ends up being that it's a intertwined thing, right? The parents have a lot of influence for sure, but also you're presented with certain decisions in life where you might take the wrong ones. And while in hindsight, it's a bad thing to do, but it's explainable because of the circumstances. Yeah. But at the same time, you still carry some fault. So that's why I think it's wrong to say that Beth isn't at fault at all. She has some, but Rick has some as well. They share because that's how families work. You get the nurture versus nature debate as well.
I mean, I think much like Beatrice
you can't go hard on the other side.
Much like Beatrice is way more at fault than BoJack, given what we've seen. You understand her circumstances, but she's still really shitty, and BoJack's also really shitty. But Rick is clearly more at fault than Beth to me, because this all comes back, and Rick is the genius, and this is all kind of on him. The circumstances.
He's a parrot, but he isn't making this perfect world. He's maybe I should put snacks in here.
And
none of this would have happened.
Yeah, and that's true. Why not make food in that world?
Why is there no food?
You know, and
because Beth could choke and die.
Yeah, I guess that's why.
And breathable water. He could just give her pudding.
Or maybe the play was fake news and they just omitted the part where Tommy ate all the snacks.
Yeah, fake news. I agree. And
he ate all of the snacks.
There was honey. He could have just eaten that.
Yeah, that's true. There was honey.
Why didn't he just live off? Oh my god. He was a cannibal. And his dad liked him because they were cannibals together.
We solved the episode. Bert's on the conspiracy train. Okay, anyway, let's move on to the next question. What is the funniest gag of the episode? So, you've talked about a few, and sorry for the tone shift here, but we got to get through the rest of the questions here. What is the funniest gag of the episode? A lot of choices here. Let's start with John.
I'm going to say that the funniest gag of the episode was and I'm going to say I'm actually going to say it's the stinger, because I thought that was hilarious, and I love the lampshading that it came with it. Mostly because first off, I love the fact that Jerry has an answering machine. It sounds like a very Jerry thing he would have anyway. The second thing is that it just sort of continued on to the B plot, which I felt really which really could have been an A plot in another episode. But it's funny how, for whatever reason, Kiara still loves Jerry. And why? I don't know. But she said she's still sending him text messages. And then you find out that he's going to get killed by her new boyfriend. And then you find out Rick is still protecting Jerry, which I don't know why Rick would still be protecting Jerry. I don't know what the benefit is for Rick. But I do love the fact that he still cares enough about Jerry to actually fend off a villain for him, even though he's also fucking his ex-girlfriend.
They're chill now after Willy Darley conspiracy. They're chill.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then you have
the kids' fathers. Maybe he doesn't want him to die because the kids will be sad.
That's true.
Maybe this is Rick's master plan. He knows that their marriage was shitty because they're codependent, so now they're apart and they can work on their shittiness.
Or maybe Jerry's after prophecy.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yes.
Like the world will have to be saved because of Jerry.
I don't think Rick has prophecies, but maybe.
But it's all.
Do you think that Rick is clairvoyant?
No. Okay.
But
yes, John.
But then you have the ending where it's, they have the whole thing. It's like, yeah, we're going to waive the $70 fee. No one really uses these except for TV exposition plots, so you can just go ahead and keep it. I enjoyed that because I was starting to think at the time, wait, why would he have an answering machine? Oh, okay, there we go. There's the joke.
Yeah.
I loved how it was able to end on such a really humorously light note as that.
Nice. Okay. Rick and Morty, whenever there's a grievance, they always answer it immediately in the episode. So I do enjoy that. Good choice there with the answering machine gag. April, what's your gag of the episode?
Unfortunately, mine was also the answering machine exposition at the end. I like that. It's very classic and sitcom-y. It made me laugh. I loved all of the different elements. It sort of combined Rick into the B plot. And then again, I like that they address that this is all just a gag. And so that's why, Jerry's being waived the $70 late fee and that he can just keep the machine. It just made me laugh the entire time. I fully enjoyed it. So okay. I have no regrets about my answer.
Oh wow! Already anticipating criticism. Yeah, no, I was April really. Maybe April's the correct one. I was about to say April really putting on a clinic on how to win the panel but now you just repeat it. Come with a backup answer. Come on. Okay. So Brit, what?
Couldn't. I spent so much time on my other answers.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good response. Brit, what's your favorite gag of the episode?
Okay, so my favorite gag of the episode is the kids when they're fighting outside the cave, the little into the descent creature things. They're like, I'm tired too. And then later Jerry's like, I'm walking because I'm tired. You should definitely be running. And I just thought that was really funny.
Okay.
Cool.
Interesting. Yeah, that was a funny little moment.
Dylan clearly doesn't like my answer.
I don't know if it's a gag, but
you don't think it's a gag?
I don't know.
What do you consider
more of a broad? It's just a broader concept. Anything can maybe qualify, but I do think that's a nice little funny moment at the very least, and it's good. It's good to highlight it.
What would you like for the parameters so I can narrow it down? And
well, like the answering machine, it's like a gag. It's like, we're expositioning on this answering machine, then we're gonna make fun of it. Let's see what Alex has. Maybe that'll be another example.
Well, I had the Stone Cold Steve Austin rumination. Like after this very serious dialogue. All right, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he leaves, and he's just like continues to talk to himself about the joke. Like it doesn't make much sense, but I'm standing by it. And then he just repeats it again to himself, owning it, and then just cuts to commercial. So I just love when like Rick goes meta with us, and like this was one of the little times we got that in this episode, and just him talking about humor in general is the. It works.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that
funny.
It's another good moment to highlight. I guess that's slightly more of a gag. I think you guys are thinking too small with these gag options. Like clearly, I think for me the best gag of the episode is just the whole concept of Tommy having the cannibalistic incest tendencies. Like
ew, no.
Like just the.
I guess if his dad ate him, that could be cannibalistic incest.
Like
I will say that the play, the entire
or his parents' brother and sister.
The play also it would be a good choice for here, but just the whole concept of the planet of Rick did not leave any food there, so he had to create offspring and then eat them. Like that's that.
Why didn't he eat the honey swamp?
Yeah, that's the conclusion we've arrived at. But that's to me the funny. That's to me the funniest.
This episode was fake news.
Who are you writing the letter to, Tommy?
Well, Tommy's dead, and his clone probably doesn't know, so I'm going to write it to
I don't think Tommy's.
Tommy's ladies who wrote this episode.
No, a guy wrote this episode, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
so.
as we learned in the
episode.
open letter, it doesn't really matter who's credited to writing the episode; they all contributed. But it's no, I don't think Tommy's dead. I think Beth just cut off his finger. Right? That's my interpretation.
Oh, I thought she.
That's an adorable interpretation.
That was less
so
just
cute
as ambiguous as the clone Beth.
I think she just cut off the finger. Anyway, maybe I'm too naive about that. But yeah.
So he's just wandering around bleeding with one finger. Yeah. All his
so he can
food
bleed
source
to death.
Is dead, and now he's going to starve to death like in his little.
I mean, maybe he was trying to defend his Fruitbyland subjects, and Beth, because she had a sentient switchblade, just slashed him.
Yeah.
I like her sentient switchblade, how it has like a Barbie voice.
Right, so
that was my favorite guy.
Okay, that would have been a better answer. Yeah, no, it cannot replace it, but yes.
My favorite
the sentient switchblade is a great flag.
Because I had Barbies like that, and I would have...
Okay.
Oh my god, a sentient Barbie knife. Love it.
I do like the personal...
Every child's dream.
Yeah. That like the whole going through Beth's childhood things, that's a gag, the sentient switchblade, the whole concept of the place, the play. I also love the very end with the no, that wasn't time travel. There's just a couple of pizzas on the counter. I grabbed them. That's kind of a gag. All good answers here. John gets 4, April 2 for repeating, Alex and Brit 3 for kind of not gags. But anyway, let's
I tried, Dylan. I put effort forth.
You got there eventually, but let's go to the rapid fire through the last 2 questions. So very short answers here. This was the blank best episode of season 3. Best, second best, worst, second worst, fifth, fourth. Brit, you're up first.
I put it was the 5th best.
Okay.
Yeah, 5th best. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5th best.
Okay.
I liked it less than Rick Lantis or Morty's or the Rick Shank Redemption and Rick Mansling the Stone.
Okay.
Because of the B plot, but
because of the B
so
plot.
I put it. I don't know which one's the B plot. The Jerry plot I didn't like as much, so that knocked it down. Where the other ones I enjoyed the B plot more.
Okay, 5th.
If they had a B plot.
5th for Brit. John, blank best episode.
It's just gonna miss the podium at number 4. I'm putting it behind the. What is it? The rest and Rick's laxation. The Rick Lantis mix-up and the season premiere. It's number 4 for me.
Yeah.
It was great episode, great Rick and Beth episode. It built on Pickle Rick a bit, but it had a few too many flaws for me. But it was still a very strong character episode, so that's why I'm putting it in there.
Okay. April, blank best episode.
7th best episode. It's at the bottom with the whirly-durly conspiracy theory and Rick Mansing the Stone. I didn't enjoy those other 2 episodes. This one just barely made it from not being in the bottom. So, done.
Okay, done. Alex, you.
I have it fifth best as well. I think Tales from the Citadel, Rick Shank, Rest and Rick Relaxation, and Pickle Rick, those are all that's good from beginning to end. I think ABC's of Beth was really funny, but it was uneven in plot. But I think it's the best of these uneven episodes. Like, this belonged with Whirly Durly Conspiracy, with Rick Manson the Stone, with Morty's Mind Blowers. It's like in that area, but it's definitely the most humorous of those episodes. So fifth is where I got it.
Okay. Four is for all of those answers, all solid takes. Yeah, I feel like I like the episode a lot more than you guys, but I only have it as fifth best as well. But I think it's in the upper tier of episodes this season. I think there's an argument for this being better. Also, the argument for this being better than Pickle Rick and Rick Shank at number 3. But I very much enjoy this.
I mean, I
would argue it's better than Pickle Rick. I didn't enjoy Pickle Rick as much as other people.
We're all entitled to our opinions. Heh.
Heh?
Yeah.
Okay. Enunciated with the heh. And most importantly, our last question. Very briefly, what are your predictions for the season finale? The Rickchurian Morty date. Keith David President is back. Alex, start us off here.
Okay, so we have the promo of them going to the White House, Keith David making his glorious return, so that's nice. But this little monster is that they shoot. It's going to be like in the first 5 minutes, and this is actually a ruse to get Rick in a place where where Tammy can take him to the Federation, and the evil Morty has made some kind of alliance with Tammy, and they tried to torture Rick for his crimes against the universe. But Morty, with help from Summer and Jerry, Beth is off somewhere else, but Summer and Jerry break into the compound and have to break out Rick, and Rick has to be forced to say something emotional to Morty in order to get out.
Okay, I missed most of that, but I heard Tammy, so a thumbs up. Is it Tammy in disguise as the Summer's classmate?
Summer's classmate will be a henchman.
Okay. I feel like that's a cop-out answer, as before. Okay, thumbs up on that. Brit, finale predictions.
It's going to be a Rick versus Rick showdown. Evil Morty and all of the Ricks are coming for Rick, and they're going to invade the planet, and he's going to send the kids off-world, and then the kids are going to meet up with real Beth.
Okay.
And they're going to have to save everybody, and they're going to have, Rick's going to, break it down from the inside, and they're going to, finally go after and kill evil Morty and take down the Citadel and, blow up the planet and all that shit once and for all. And then there will be way less Ricks and way less Mortys in the infinite field, so we won't be, dealing with that as much. There'll only be the occasional leftovers.
Sounds exciting.
So the Citadel and all of their ideas will go poof.
I think
into the vast expanse of space, and they will become hydrogen atoms and dust.
Wow, that was what? Yeah, that was. I agree.
What?
Yeah. I think you were.
It'll be
okay. Good. Very. That would be an exciting finale.
At the end of the episode, 9 Inch Nails plays "Hurt" again.
Yeah, but that sounds about right. Okay, John, what's your finale predictions?
They go into the Kennedy sex tunnels or whatever it was, and they encounter. I think they're going to encounter a SEAL team Ricks, and they're going to be led by evil Morty, and there's going to be a massive shootout. Mr. Poopy Butthole is going to come back and rescue his husband, Morty. They are married. I can do it. They are married. They just, maybe they had a trial separation, some differences of opinion on stuff. We don't know. But they're going to work it out, and evil Beth, not clone Beth. I just called her evil Beth. Is going to come back and is going to come back, save the day. But we won't know that it's regular Beth. It won't be made official, but we won't know if it's official. But it will be clear to the viewer. But it won't be said in the show that it's regular Beth saving the day. Meanwhile, we'll go back to clone Beth just playing downbeat.
Or does clone Beth die? And Rick's like, hey, it's okay, it's just a clone. And they're like, what? And then there's no Beth for a while.
Yeah, I like the concept of bringing back in the clone real Beth already. That was an instant 5. The second you mentioned Mr. Poopy Butthole and husband Morty, so it's I'd be in. April, close us out here. What are your finale predictions?
Oh man, I just thought that it was going to be Tammy and Phoenix Person breaking into the Kennedy sex tunnels because they were trying to spice up their love life because they're having a little bit of problems after.
Oh my god!
Bird Person, dying and everything like that. And then my predictions for like the B plot were obviously going to be Clone Beth and Jerry getting back together, and Summer's probably going to be super pissed off about it, and it's going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with everybody? And that's just going to be the whole episode. And it'll just end with Rick giving off some new, slightly ridiculous catchphrases along the lines of like, wubba lubba dub dub and so forth. So that's my predictions for the episode. Yeah. So my prediction for the episode.
That sounds about right. Okay. I love the sprucing up their sex life, Tammy and Bird Person. Let's do that. Phoenix Person. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Phoenix Person.
So
really, we went with that, you guys.
Yeah. So those are all 4s and 5s. But before I give out the final grades here, I have. So you're all wrong about the finale. I have a quote from Dan Harmon in his interview with Entertainment Weekly. Question is, can you tease us up for the finale? And Dan Harmon says, I don't want to poison the well, but the finale is a great episode that we finalified when we realized we weren't going to be able to make 14. It's Rick in a conflict with the President of the United States. Keith David returns to reprise his role, and that's the main story of that episode, Rick versus the United States. So, I think unfortunately the fact that this was originally supposed to be a 14-episode season comes into play, and we should really temper our expectations about how big this will be. It was not originally intended to be a finale, but they did, as Dan Harmon says, finale-fied it a little bit.
True, but never
so it's going to
the possibility of a troll.
He could be trolling, but it does make sense with what we were saying the entire time they keep talking about how they had to adjust, but I think so. What this tells me is that we're a no-go on Evil Morty. Because I don't think that they could just throw him in when they're finale-ifying, but I think we could randomly bring in Tammy and Bird Person. Like, I think that's an option. But I was originally really very bullish on Evil Morty. Like, why would you bring him back if not to do him in the finale? But this wasn't supposed to be their finale, so I don't think that needs to come into play.
Phoenix Person could very well be in the finale because he was introduced in episode 1.
Yeah, and they might not even be in there either, right? That might have gotten pushed to next season.
It might be too soon.
Yeah. So
we might get like a finale that leaves stuff like super open ended and us like sitting on our hands wanting to
and then we have to wait
like
2
die
years.
because 2 years. You guys, I watched this entire show in the space of like 2 months. I have to wait 2 years.
Wow, the club.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was going to say.
The first of the bid.
Yeah, so will we get a stinger of a character talking to the screen telling us how long it'll be until next season again? That's the big question.
Yes, that's how they're going to finalify.
Right, that to me, that's another way to finalify it. Change the stinger.
They're going to have Mr. Poopy Butthole again, just like at the end of season 2, and they're going to be like, he's going to be like, ooh. Oh, wait.
Yeah. I don't think you can do
that. What's going to happen from here, guys?
Yeah, I don't think you can do that again. But
I got it. We this is what Trisha is for. She's the stinger character. She's going to be talking to Jessica like, man, have you seen that Morty kid? He was annoying you a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Last I heard, I think his grandpa said they were going away for 2.5 years. And just cut.
I could see that Trisha being the perspective character.
And then she just starts randomly talking about some sex.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Have you ever had sex with an octopus, an alarm clock, and an entire map of Norway?
Right. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. I think that's pretty likely. So okay.
You had that on
There is. Here's the thing. There is a non-zero chance that they could be coming back and go, "What's up? Just kidding. We got 4 more weeks of this. Suck it."
I think that's a 0 chance, but you're right. Yeah. Any other show would be
I think that has a negative 0.
No, any other show would definitely be 0. This show, Adult Swim is kind of guerrilla marketing enough with this that they might hide the existence of future episodes. That's not out of the realm of, but
they hid the Citadel episode.
They did, yeah. It's and I don't know. Mm-hmm. So anyway, lower your expectations plot wise for the finale. But I do think we'll still see some stuff. Like, they got to put some stuff in there. So that's going to be very fun next week. But the final score is here. Yeah, you guys, I don't remember the grades from the last question, but I've added them up. Alex, 27, Brit, 28, John, 29, and April, 30. April, congratulations on winning this panel. Despite heavily disagreeing with almost everything you said, you win the panel here.
That's fine.
Yeah. So
I told you, I was like, I really thought about my answers for this, so I'm proud of myself.
Yeah, these were well prepared except for the gag question, but everyone else floundered enough that it didn't matter. So we got there.
Yes.
Yeah. April, FaceTime. Talk about anything you want. 15 seconds.
Oh, can I pitch Mysticons because I love it and I think that
I guess.
Pitch the feed.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Give the 10-second sell on Mysticons. It's another animated show we cover.
Mysticons is another animated show we cover. If you like Dungeons and Dragons and a lot of girls, by all means, watch Mysticons.
Yeah. I think it's not the right audience, the Rick and Morty audience for Mysticons, but some people, sure.
That's true.
Yeah.
You just said Dungeons and Dragons and girls. That sounds entirely plausible.
See?
And not in that way. They're like children, like the female characters. Like that's anyway.
We don't know how old those characters are.
We also don't. One of them's like 100-year-old elf. So if that gets
exactly.
I mean, there's probably a few 13-year-olds listening to this podcast. They probably would be into that.
I guess. Yeah.
You know what?
13-year-olds should not
They're
be
not
watching.
allowed to be 13-year-olds who listen to this.
This is not appropriate for 13-year-olds. The Rick and Morty.
It's 9:30 at night.
That doesn't mean they're not watching
Yeah,
it.
that's true.
Can I just tell everyone to lickety-lick my balls?
You could tell that.
Oh.
Do you want to tell?
South Park when it came on TV really early as a kid before your parents got up.
What?
No
one else did that.
But
You're talking about children watching this show. Like, does people do that?
I remember that. When I was younger, I got up at like 6 a.m. and Disney Channel had like DuckTales, Goof Troop, Little Mermaid. I was like, that's how I remember most of the 80s cartoons, was because they were on at 6 o'clock in the morning on the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
I used to stay up really late to watch Adult Swim. I had a
did you
TV
ever
in my
watch like
room.
the anime? That's how you got it.
Okay, this is too far off track.
Okay.
So, like,
Anyway.
you think the possibility that there are 13-year-olds who listen to this podcast?
Yeah, maybe. But, so congrats to April. Good panel here. Briefly, I want to mention, I was slightly distracted in the middle of this because news broke while we were recording that there will be a live-action adaptation of Your Name, the anime movie from last year, produced by J.J. Abrams. There will be a live-action film adaptation of...
What?
Be right back.
This is big news for big news for our realm of animation.
Remember the real life make of Dragon Ball Z, Gem and the Hologram. Last year.
All right. Bet now. All right. How much you gonna bet that they're gonna cast a white chick to play
exactly.
the?
They'll say, "Oh, we said it in the United States." Right. Anyway, written by the Arrival writer Eric Hysen. So there's some good talent, but we'll see. Okay, this will be come to the Discord at Overly.
It'll probably be a really good movie, but it'll have white people in it.
I'm going to the Discord now, you guys.
Yeah, should I post this under films or anime on our Discord? Overlyanimated.com/Discord to discuss Rick and Morty and this and other things. And you text chat with us there. So that's going to be our big topic of discussion after this. But overlyanimated.com for all of our stuff, including Mysticons. Maybe more pertinent for Rick and Morty fans. We're of a Star vs. the Force of Evil podcast out right at the same time period as this podcast. That is, we call this Rick and Morty for Kids. So that's another choice if you want to get into more animated shows. Overlyanimated.com for all of that. Make sure you're subscribed to us so you don't miss more Rick and Morty podcasts. Support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Eric of the Universe. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Andy. Make sure to tune in for our Rick and Morty finale coverage coming next week. It's all happening. We're already at the finale, so we'll have a panel, we'll have a recap. Subscribe to us so you don't miss any of that. Thanks very much for listening, guys. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See ya.
Take care.
Bye.